morning from the kitchen, folks. In this film today, I'm going to be making a gooseberry and apple wine using gooseberries picked from my garden and early windfall apples from my apple tree. Let's have a look at all those ingredients. So first of all, here's my gooseberries, and I've got 1.5 kilos of gooseberries in there. Nice weighty bag. And they've been in the fridge now for about 2 weeks in a really cold temperature, about 1 degree, 2 degrees. So that should have broken down the flesh a little bit to make them easier to work with today. I've got 750 grams of windfall apples. I'm going to be using spring water, just 1 litre of spring water from what's in this bottle. I've got 1 kilogram of brewing sugar, dextrose monohydrate, to up the ABV to make it wine strength. And then I'm using Young's dried active yeast, Young's yeast nutrient, and Young's pectolase to hopefully achieve some clarity with this brew. And that's it. So a nice and simple set of ingredients. Let's crack on. So I'm making my wine today using my steam press. So I'll introduce you to the steam press in case you haven't seen it before. So this is the base of the steam press. This is the pan which holds 4 litres of just plain old tap water. On top of that pan sits this pan, and you'll notice that there's a little spout at the front, and that goes in that divot, just there like that. And what will happen is I will get fruit juice drip down from the top basket, which is the colander, after it gets hit by the steam which comes through there. So the water underneath boils, steam comes up, hits the top basket, hits it just there, and then filters around. The fruit juice liquid drips down from there, from the broken down fruit, into this pan, out of the hole down there, through this tube and into an awaiting demijohn, which I need to put in place. It's a very straightforward and simple piece of kit, which is really labour saving. Right, I need to get a few bits and bobs together. I'll come back to you shortly. So my next job now is to melt the brewing sugar. So here it is. It's a very straightforward process doing this. I'm simply going to put some spring water on top. It dissolves very easily. I don't need any more than that. I'm just going to give it a stir around because it's quite sorbet quality to the texture at the minute. And you can see that already it's starting to darken in there because it's dissolving. Even without any heat, it's dissolving. Right, I shall put this onto some heat then. So I'll pop that on there. So I've got the ring on nice and low. Pop that in place. Leave it. So now it's time to process the fruit. And all that simply involves is me cutting each apple in half. Don't worry about bits like that, it's absolutely fine. There's nothing living in it. And I'm going to remove the stalk if I can, but I'm not necessarily worried. And then I'm going to lay these flesh side down in the colander, like so. So that when the steam hits them, it's hitting the raw flesh straight away and not the skin, which can act as a barrier to the juice inside. Now I'm not going to get tons of juice out of these. They're very immature apples. But I will get something out of them, and it seems a shame to throw them away when I can use them, so I might as well use them. So I'm going to line the bottom of the colander basket. I shall come back to you shortly. So that's my windfall apples now in the bottom of the colander basket. It's not very full, but hopefully the gooseberries will fill that up a bit more. I'm probably hoping to get to round about there. When I make cider proper, I fill this right to the top, but I just don't have the content for that today. Right, so let's get these in. When you put them in very cold temperatures, it does break down the flesh. They've not been frozen, but they have been in a very cold fridge. I'm going to keep that one because I want to try and extract some seeds and do something with them. Well, propagate them. Right, so I have managed to fill it to that ring, so that's good. I will get most of a demijohn's worth of juice from what's in there. So that goes on top of the steam press, and the lid goes on. So I'm on a wok ring today. I've got a double burner and an inside burner, so Let's get that on. And this should start to produce juice in about 40 minutes time. So let me go through this. I've got the fruit in the top in the colander basket. That's the steamer that collects the juice. The water's underneath. The juice that comes out is going to go down this pipe into this awaiting demijohn. The demijohn is in a metal saucepan, a deep one, in case it cracks and fails, because that's going to be very hot juice. It never has done yet. Fingers crossed it won't. And then I've got this on the pink towel to protect the laminate from the heat. It's a very straightforward setup. I'll come back to you in a bit. So just a 10-minute update, and the brewing sugar has now dissolved. If I just agitate that pan a little bit, you can see that that has just got a little bit of a surface, but there's nothing underneath it, which is now undissolved. So I'm actually going to pour that into the demijohn before it starts producing the juice. So hopefully this won't go everywhere, but usually it does. That's really nice and syrupy. And that's about right, actually. That's what I was looking for, because the quantity of fruit that I've got in there will make about that much juice. So that is pretty much where I want it to be. So I'm happy enough with that. I need to get this back in place. And just as an update from the steam press, you can hear that that water in the reservoir in the bottom is now beginning to come to a simmer. I'll come back to you when the juice starts flowing. And 30 minutes later, I've missed the beginning, but the dripping has started. And the colour that's coming through at the minute, that pinkish tinge, that is probably majoritively apple that's coming through. It'll go darker when it hits the gooseberries. I'll come back to you in an hour's time. We'll have a progress update then. Right, as promised, this is an hour later. I'm still getting some drips through, but it's certainly drips now rather than a flow. I'm going to have a look at the level of fruit inside here. And you can see from the ring where it was up to, it's definitely gone down. I'm going to give it a little hand. So what I've got is a potato masher, and I'm just going to, I can see juice coming out as I'm doing that actually. So I think it's time now to start to help it to get the last of the juice out of there. There is still some in there. There's not tons left in there, but there definitely is some. And I'm just going to pour a bit of water that I've boiled in the kettle on top, and that's just going to help to free it up a little bit as well. I'll put the lid back on. I'll give it another half an hour and then I'll come back to you. Right, just to point out that on 3 hours I've turned this off because we're just about full. And once I've drained what's in here, it will probably get full. So I'll come back to this in a little while. Right, I'm done for today. Let me show you what I've got. So that is a full gallon of juice with the sugary water in the bottom. They have separated into 2 constituent parts, but I'll show you that tomorrow because that's very hot to pick up. I'm leaving this now for 24 hours to cool down. I've got a filter on top so nothing can get in there but the heat can get out. That is what is left of the gooseberries and apple. You can see that's gone down to pretty much nothing, so I'm satisfied that I got everything out of there that I'm going to get. So this is going to be a 2-day process. I'll come back to you tomorrow when I'll take the original gravity, add the dry ingredients and get the brew going. So tomorrow will be preparation day 2 stroke brew day 1, and I'll see you then. Good morning from the kitchen, folks. It's the next day, preparation day 2 stroke brew day 1. The demijohn from yesterday has now cooled down to room temperature, but I want to show it you before going any further. Now look at the layering in that. So in the bottom you've got a fairly clear-ish layer, and this is sugar and water, which is a lot denser than the fruit juice above it. So it's no good me trying to take a gravity reading as it currently stands, because it won't be accurate. So what I'm going to have to do is really mix this up. So that is going to go into here, which is a new cleaned and sanitized demijohn. So when I pour that into there, it should mix everything together enough. So I'm going to pour it from there into there, and then from there back into there. Once I've done that, I'm going to take the original gravity. Right, in we go. I'm just taking it nice and steady. I don't want it to slop everywhere, particularly as I'm wearing a yellow t-shirt. I'm just going to mix that together. There we go. I'm going to lose a little bit, but it doesn't matter. This is definitely going to blow through once I add the yeast to it, so I'm going to lose some anyway. So that's what it's currently looking like. So I'm just going to repeat the process back into the original demijohn from this one. Right, I'm just going to have a little tidy round, back in a sec. Right, we're all tidy. I'm going to pour some into the hydrometer tube, so I'm going to sacrifice just under 100 ml. A bit more. But I don't know whether I'm going to sacrifice it or not. I could pour it back in because I have cleaned the hydrometer tube. I think I'm going to pour it back in because I'm going to lose more when it blows through. So I want as much in as possible, really. Right, let's get the hydrometer in and see if I can see a gravity reading. There is a little bit of foam on top, which is going to preclude a reading a little bit. Okie dokie, so I am starting on an original gravity of 1.078. It's not quite as high as I'd wanted, but it's fine. So 1078. So I am going to pour it back in. My equipment is clean, so it shouldn't taint it. Now this may or may not require racking after it's fermented out, because there is definitely some fruit matter that's got through. Some of the flesh from the gooseberries is definitely in there. I could see there was little gelatinous pieces here and there. We'll see how it plays out, I think, in terms of sediment levels. Right, time to get the dry ingredients in. So first of all, I'm going to put some yeast nutrient in. I'm going to put 2 heaped teaspoonfuls into the demijohn. There is plenty of nutrient in here, but a little bit more won't hurt. Next I'm going to add pectolase, and I've only got a little bit left in this tube. It's actually down to about there, so I'm just going to tip it in, I think. In fact, yeah. There's probably a reasonably well heaped teaspoonful gone in there. And finally, the yeast. So just dried active yeast, general yeast from Young's. It works really well. I'm going to have 1 rounded teaspoon and half a teaspoon. That's plenty. Right, I'm going to let that sink in naturally. I'm not going to try and agitate it. I need to fit a blow-off pipe, have a tidy round, label this up. I'll come back to you when I've done that. Right, I'm in the living room. Let me show you what I've got. So there's the demijohn with the blow-off pipe fitted. So this is essentially just one big airlock. So I've got a feeling that this is going to create a big krausen. It will push that up here through this pipe and into the jug of water. Rather than me messing an airlock up, I'll get it all out in there, and then when it's calmed down I will fit an airlock proper. I've labelled it up, gooseberry and apple wine, original gravity 1.078, and today's date the 21st of July 2025. So I'm done for now. I'll come back to you when fermentation begins, just to show you that it's bubbling, and I'll also show you if it does blow through. I'm expecting that to be later today or tomorrow, so whenever it is, I'll catch you then. And just a 6 hour later update to show you that the blow-off pipe is absolutely needed and is working effectively as it should be. So this is all good. I'll come back to you with an update either tomorrow or the day after. Well, it's actually brew day 5 and I've just fitted the airlock. The blow-off pipe is no longer required. It's still going nice and strong, and I'm just going to leave this now. So next week I'm actually off to Australia for 3 weeks, so I'm just going to have to leave this as is, I think. I don't think it's going to be ready for racking or bottling before I go. I'll come back to you with an update whenever that may be, right? Catch you later, kids. Hey folks, just a Brew Day 9 update for the gooseberry and apple wine. I just had a bit of a brainwave. So this is the wine, and this is a gap at the top of the demijohn where I lost some through the blow-off pipe. I've just racked a summer fruit garden wine, just here, into demijohns, and I've got a little bit left. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take a little bit of this, just to top this demijohn up so there's no space here. Now, that space should be fine in theory, but as I'm leaving this for quite a while, because I'm off to Australia for 3 weeks, and I won't be doing anything with this for at least 4 or 5 weeks, I'd rather not have that gap at the top. I'm not quite comfortable with it. Now, really, what I should be doing now is taking another gravity reading, working out the ABV, working out the alcohol by volume of what's going to go in there, etc. Take another gravity reading. Right, I can't be bothered. It is that much. We are talking a fraction here, and there is so little going in, it's going to make a tiny amount of difference, if none at all. And the actual original gravity of this and this are only 0.02 apart anyway, so I'm not bothered, is what I'm saying. So I'm just going to fill this little bit up here with the dregs of what's left here. There you can see. So I'm just going to remove the airlock, and I'm going to put this in, as I've just been doing with my other wine, and I'm just going to literally pour this in. Now, what I'm pouring in is gooseberry, blackcurrant, rhubarb, apple and whitecurrant. It's going to fractionally darken the colour, and I mean fractionally, but really it's not going to have a massive impact at all. I'm being very gentle with it. I can see there's already some excitement there, and that's now a nice full demijohn, and I should in theory get 6 bottles out of that. Now you can see where I've poured it in, it is slightly darker because of the blackcurrant. Flavour wise, it's going to be a minuscule amount of difference, if anything at all, because the overarching fruit in that was actually gooseberries anyway. And that's now done, and I'm just going to let it finish off. So I'll be coming back to you with an update from this in probably 4 or 5 weeks' time, hopefully with a bit of a tan. See you then. Good morning from the kitchen, folks. It is brew day 43 for my gooseberry and apple wine, and today is bottling day. Let's have a look at it. Here it is. So it is pretty much opaque. There is a slight haziness to it, but in a glass you won't actually see that at all. I think it looks pretty good. There's a very thin layer of sediment in the bottom. I'm hoping, fingers crossed, to get 6 bottles out of this. So I've got 6 bottles in the sink and the hydrometer tube. The first bit that comes out is likely to be murky, so will go into the hydrometer tube, and then I'm hoping to get 6 bottles from the remainder. So before I begin, I need to add some priming sugar into each bottle. So I'm going to add about this much into each bottle, which is 1 level teaspoonful of priming sugar. This is just standard household granulated sugar. And what this will do is hopefully give the wine a sparkle, because this should still have some yeast left in it. And if it does, and it finds this sugar, then it will break it apart and it will release CO2 from that. That CO2 release builds up in the bottle, it creates pressure, and that's what gives the wine a sparkle. Fingers crossed. Now, because this is 44 days old, and because it is going to be quite strong ABV wise, there is a good chance that I won't get a sparkle because the yeast has expired. But I won't know until I've tried. So if it doesn't sparkle, that's the reason. But I will try and get it to sparkle. Then it's bung out. Siphoning tube goes in, and it will hit the sediment just above it. But it's just into it now, just in the top of the sediment. But like I said, the first bit that comes out is going to go into the hydrometer tube. So hopefully the murky stuff goes into the hydrometer tube and not into the bottles. But if it does, they'll still settle. Let's go. Right, murky, murky, looks like milkshake. Now it's gone clear, 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 clear. We're good. Into the bottles. Right, I'll just put that to one side. I need to take the gravity with that later. And it's coming out at a decent rate of knots. Do we measure flow in knots? Actually, this is a really good question for the comments. What is the measurement of speed for when you're siphoning? What do you measure it as? Is it something per something? There must be an actual scientific answer for this. If somebody could tell me, that'd be right good. I'd like to know that, actually. It's a question for Dull Men's Club, isn't it? Or ChatGPT. Right, anyway, I won't spoil it by asking ChatGPT. Someone tell me in the comments. So it looks pretty good in the bottles. I am getting some reaction to the priming sugar. I don't want to be overly optimistic, but I am cautiously optimistic that I may get a sparkle. A delicate sparkle. Let me show you a bottle. So you can see clearly on bottle number 1 that there is some reaction to the sugar. Absolutely there is. So hopefully that's a good sign. It's hard to see through some of these dark bottles. And to do that to see where the level is right. Pretty good. And into the last bottle. Fingers crossed I'm going to fill this one. I may or may not. If I don't, it's not the end of the world. But if I do, great. I haven't got any half bottles, unfortunately. And there we go, bubbles in the siphoning tube. It's so near, yet so far. Oh, I'm so close. I'm wondering whether to just accept the fact I'm going to have one bottle which is going to have a line of sediment in the bottom and use what's in the hydrometer tube. It's the difference between having 5 bottles and 6 bottles. I think I'm going to do it. So I need to take the gravity right now before I start bottling in that case. So I'm going to have one murky bottle. It's not the end of the world. Right. So let's see what the final gravity is. Here we go. And I'm finishing on a final gravity of 0.996. 0.996. Right, before I work out what the ABV is from the gravities, I need to top this one up and then get bungs in bottles. I mean, this should settle and I will end up with the layer of sediment in the bottom of the bottle. That's topped up nicely from that. Not even used it all. So, yeah, as long as I remember this one needs to be held upright in the fridge, then I should be fine. Right, let's get the bungs in. So my bungs are here, they're plastic reusable bungs. They've been softening in very hot water for about 10 minutes. That gives them a final sanitize and it also makes them easier to push into the bottles because they're a bit softer and more malleable. That's one bung in. Now, that bung won't stay in place because when the pressure builds up in the bottle from the CO2 which is produced from the sugar that I put in there, getting nibbled and broken apart by the yeast, then that will go pew because of the pressure. So I need a cage to hold it in place. Here is a cage. I buy these online, various resellers, or sellers, sorry, I should say, on Amazon, eBay. And essentially the cage holds it in place. It's a good safety feature, well, it's an essential safety feature. And they're good for 3 or 4 uses. The bungs last forever pretty much, but the cages are good for 3 or 4 uses. And all of the bottles I use are heavy duty glass, champagne, prosecco, sparkling wine bottles. I don't use any bottles that weigh less than 700 grams. I want them to be of a robust condition so they don't, you know, explode. Because I did once have an explosion many years ago and I don't want another. So yeah. Right, I'm going to bung and cage the rest of these. I'll come back to you when I've done them. Right, that's all my bottles bunged and caged. Time to give them a quick shower in the sink. They'll have sticky residue on the outside, so it's nice to get that off. I'll put them up here to dry. It's time to work out the ABV, the alcohol by volume for this brew. So I need to take the original gravity, which was 1.078. I deduct from that the final gravity, which was 0.996, and that equals 0.082. I multiply this figure by 131.25, and that equals, drum roll please, 10.76%. Let's just say 10.8%. It's a decent percentage for a wine. It's not mega strong wine, but it's decent, so I'm happy enough with that. Right, I've made a simple label using a program called Printmaster on my iPhone. I just need to tell it to print 6 copies off. And this is a Fonamo Bluetooth printer that my phone is connected to. It works on heat, there's no actual ink in there. You just have to buy the labels. And then it's just a case of sticking the labels onto the bottles, like so. I've got another 5 to do, I'll come back to you when they're done. And there they are, like 6 bottles of hopefully sparkling loveliness. The next stage in the wine process is the conditioning process. So what I'm going to do is take these upstairs, put them out of the way, put them in a cardboard box, in a bedroom, in darkness, and they're going to sit there for 1 month, probably 2 months before I even open these. The conditioning process allows them to develop the flavour, but it also allows the sparkle to build up from the CO2 being produced and pressure building up in the bottle. I'm wanting the flavours to come through too. I would like to be able to taste the gooseberry in there. Whether I will or not, I don't know. The room that these are going to go into is at an ambient temperature of about 21 degrees Celsius, which is absolutely fine for conditioning. Anything over 18 generally is quite good. So I'll be opening these probably in November. So I'll catch you then. So this is brew day 90 for my gooseberry and apple wine, and in this film I'm going to open it and taste it and hopefully have something that's going to be nice. So I'm wanting it to be sparkling, I want it to look good in the glass, I want it to smell nice, and I want it to taste lovely. That's what I'm going for. I'm expecting it to be quite dry. I don't know if it will be sparkling, but I'm hoping it will be. It's been conditioning for a good 6 weeks, maybe 7 weeks. The bung is minusculely raised on one side, but I don't know whether, because of the percentage it got to, 10.8%, whether there'll be any yeast left in it or not. That's the truth. So let's find out. Am I going to get a pop? No, I didn't get a pop. Right, I suspected this might be the case, and in anticipation of it being a sparkler I'm using a champagne glass, but hey, never mind. So let's have a look. Okay. Right, well, it's a nice colour. It's quite a delicate blush colour, isn't it? But yeah, it's not a sparkler. It hasn't sparkled at all. I didn't know whether it would or not, and it hasn't. So gooseberry and apple. So the colour has either come from the apple skins or the gooseberries if they were purple when they went in there. And honestly, I can't remember. It seems like that long ago. See what it smells like? It just smells like homebrewy, cidery, winey type smell. There's nothing distinct at all comes out of it. Let's give it a taste. Actually not bad. Now there's a very mild effervescence in there. It's not sparkling at all, but there's effervescence. I wouldn't be surprised if I left this for a year. if it was a full-on sparkler. I can feel that sort of tingling on my tongue from the effervescence. It's got quite an acidic quality to it, but it's also got quite a full body too. It is dry, but it might be like 1 degree shy of being dry. I mean, I think to most people it probably would be considered dry, but it's not as dry as some that I've had, that's for certain. You can taste the fruit. I can taste the apple, definitely can taste the apple in it. And I think I can taste the gooseberry actually. I can, that's what's giving it that lemoniness, because gooseberry is quite sharp. Most people that eat gooseberries do so with a ton of sugar on, and a raw gooseberry is quite sharp. Yeah, that's what I can taste. I can taste the apple and the gooseberry. So in terms of flavour, it's worked out really well. It looks nice in the glass, it's a great colour. It's just not sparkling, but them's the breaks. So look, you know what, it's not a complete failure at all. I'm happy enough with it and I'm going to enjoy it tonight. So cheers folks, I hope you've enjoyed the film. Before I go, I just need to get an image for the thumbnail. Thank you for bearing with me. Right, I will catch you on the next film, whatever that may be. It's going to be a cooking film, it's going to be a homebrew film, or it could even be a beer tasting. I don't know. I'll see you then. Anyway, cheers folks. From the cabin in the woods.